Hey there, I'm Lainey Lipsky, parenting coach and master teacher. Parenting is hard. I totally get it, and I'm here to make it easier for you. Especially if you had a tough childhood or you've got a tough child now, I've got your back. So take a deep breath, relax, and check out this clip from my coaching group this week. And remember to hit like and subscribe if you like my vibe. Let's get started. Here's the question. I'm hoping you can elaborate some more about self-talk, but with our children. Just this morning, I saw my son in a negative mind space, and it made me sad because he was thinking to himself, what he was thinking to himself was really not true. His perception was just way off. Yes, I know that these are his thoughts and need to respect his feelings, but it's hard not to respond with that's not true when their perception is not accurate totally. In this case, this morning, my son was being hard on himself with how his new clothes were fitting him. He looked great, but he didn't agree. Other times, the negative self talk is around sports, fitness, or drawing or playing an instrument in any area that he puts time and attention to. The minute things don't go well or look or feel exactly right, the negative self talk can set in. I just wish I could help my boys stop negative self talk immediately because they're so awesome. They have tremendous potential and are working so hard on all their goals. Basically, my question is what are some good response talking points for me and tools to help my kids overcome negative self talk? Also, when I say don't be so hard on yourself, they don't respond to that either. Right. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. It all feels very helpless. Luckily, this morning, my son moved on, had some breakfast, and was his happy go lucky self. Nonetheless, the negative self talk is real, and I'm sure stays with him and comes and goes throughout the day. Totally. Great question and great examples. Um, Not for nothing, it's really important to always check in when negative self talk is starting or you're noticing it. It could just be that they're hungry and that they're not feeling good. And it's not surprising to me. I'm not saying that this is always the case, but it's not surprising to me that you said that he had some breakfast and then he felt better and then he was his normal self again. It could be that negative self talk for him is actually a red flag that he has dipped into a depleted state. It could just be a form of him being depleted. So if he can gain some awareness around, oh, I'm actually being like really beating up on myself right now. Maybe I need to eat something, or maybe I need to drink some water, right? That could be a really helpful awareness for him to have. I'm not simplifying it to that. And at the same time, it's really important to keep that on your radar for yourself as well as for your kids. That when your physical tanks are low, when you're operating from a place of depletion, you know this for yourself as well as I do. When you're hungry, aren't you cranky? And then you're like, you get hangry. That's a word for a reason, right? You eat something and then you're like, oh, the world is like actually not a terrible place anymore. And you look at your partner or your kids and you're like, oh, I don't hate you. I was just hungry, right? So just be mindful if that's a symptom, if the negative self-talk is a symptom of being hungry, that would be a very helpful awareness for your son to have. That's my first point. My second point is that, yeah, it is really important to respect our kids' thoughts and feelings and to find a way to call them on their BS, especially when their BS is hurtful to themselves, right? Like we know that when we're talking to a really good friend or somebody who's an excellent listener, and we're just going on and on about how things are so bad and whatever, and they look at us and they're like, listen, like or you feel really bad about yourself and they're like, listen, I'm just here to tell you, like, you're awesome. um it can feel really good. It just has to be done in a way that we can receive it, right? Because if we're really feeling down about ourselves and the other person just keeps saying, you're so awesome, you're so awesome, don't feel that way, you're so awesome, it can feel really negating and it can feel like we're not being seen, right? So there's a balance here with our kids in validating them without buying into their story. So let's talk about that example of the clothing. Have you ever tried something on or worn something and you don't feel good in it? And somebody says to you, you look great. And you're like, really? Because I don't feel that good, right? Or have you ever put on some weight? I know this is true for me, where I've put on weight and I'm not happy about it. And um, somebody else will say, "Oh, no, you didn't put on weight. You look great." And I'm in my body and I know that I've put on weight and I know I don't feel great. I'm sharing this with you because this was actually a big aha moment for me and my sister as adults, where both of us have had, you know, body issues growing up in this country as women, as most of us do. And we learned over many, many years of saying the wrong thing and making each other not feel good. We finally came to a way to talk to each other, which I think is really helpful for working with your son too. And and I've shared this with my kids too. What my sister and I came to together as adults was that we could say to each other, I get that you feel heavy right now. I'm not going to talk you out of that. And at the same time, I just want to tell you that I think you look great. Both things can be true. I hear you that you don't feel good in what you're wearing. And I just want to let you know, as your friend, as your sister in this case, I'm telling you a story, it actually looks really good on you, like objectively. So I know we all have our own way that we see ourselves, and we're much more critical of ourselves than other people are of us. So we've got to learn how to tame that inner critic. So with your son, we can apply that same idea. If he's not feeling good about something that he's wearing or something that he's doing, you could say, I totally hear you. I hear you're not feeling good about what you're doing or how you look right now. And again, getting curious is a really helpful, loving way to validate what somebody else is feeling without buying into their story. So if your son is saying, I suck at this, or I look terrible in this, instead of saying, no, you don't, you look great, or you're really good at it, you can say, why are you saying that? And be genuinely curious. Don't be like, why are you saying that? Like not believing them. Be like, what what's going on here that's making you feel that way or look that way? Can you tell me? And try to get them to be specific. And if they can't be specific, then you can answer them much in the same way that I explained that I do with my sister, is to say, I hear that you feel that way. And do you want to hear my perspective or do you not want to hear my perspective? Because I have a slightly different perspective. And it's not just because I'm your mom. And then they'll say, yes, it is because your mom. My son says to me whenever I say something nice to him, like he looks handsome, you have to say that. It's part of your job description as mom. And we laugh about it now because I'll say, well, yeah, I am your mom, but I can also see things. I've been on this planet for a long time, longer than he has, and I can say, listen, I have seen what looks good and I've seen what doesn't look good, and I'm telling you objectively, like it looks good, you know? So that kind of honest response, respectful, honest, validating how they feel while asking if they want your feedback or your input, getting curious about why they're feeling that way without pity, without being like, oh, why do you feel that way? Because that gets grating also. Just think about how you would feel if you were like, oh, I don't feel great in my body right now, and I just can't find anything good to wear. And your friend was negating it in all these different ways. Your friend was like, you look great, or your friend was like, no, that thing looks awesome on you, or oh, don't worry about it because it's not seeing you, right? And then your friend was still, what if your friend was able to then say, I I hear what you're saying. I have been there myself. I totally get it. I have felt that way myself, so I'm not going to try to talk you out of how you feel, but do you want to hear what I see? And then, give them the dignity of saying yes or no. I really hope this video was helpful to you. Feel free to share it and use the comments to ask a question or to request a topic for the future. We've got links below for free support with things like discipline, teaching your kids how to be more gritty, and how to be more patient with your kids, plus access to my free coaching group. So be sure to check those links out. And remember, we get one shot at parenthood. Our kids only get one shot at their childhood, so let's make it count. Click like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.